afternoon. I'd like to thank you all for joining Access U today for our first Google Hangout. Today's Hangout is a college Q&A with disability service professionals and individuals with disabilities who are in college or recently graduated. Serving on the panel representing disability service professionals is Holly Zuckerman, Access Coordinator for the Disability Resource Center at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Here to share their insight on attending college as a student with a disability is Rachel Markley from the University of Texas and Samantha Moreno, a recent graduate from the University of Tennessee. We're going to open today's session with the students on the panel, followed by some questions for the professionals. If you have any questions while watching, please click on the Q&A button on the screen and submit your question to be answered. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy today's session. So for Rachel and Samantha, when do you remember starting your first college search?
Who wants to start?
I can.
You can go ahead.
Okay, so I started pretty early because I really wanted to go to college early. So I was looking probably my freshman year. I started looking at colleges and yeah.
So actually University of Texas is my master's. My undergrad I did at Ohio State. So I really, honestly, for undergrad can't entirely remember. I think, well, I guess I was probably started as a sophomore. I visited some colleges between my junior and senior year. And then for grad school, I had started looking probably about my sophomore year, same thing, of undergrad, but then my family moved at the beginning of my senior year, so my search totally changed because it changed states. And so I started looking probably like fall semester of my senior year because I took about 6 months off and didn't start until January. So.
You're muted.
Sorry, can everyone hear me now? Apologies.
Yeah.
So Rachel, I know you mentioned that part of your reason for choosing, the college that you chose obviously went into the fact that you moved your senior year. That happened to me as well, and that was a factor for me. But why did you ultimately choose either the school you went to for your undergrad as well as your master's college? I'm sure that academics weren't the only thing that you all had to consider when choosing the right university with the right programs.
No, I think, see, for undergrad, a lot of it was my program. I started out, my major was molecular genetics because I was crazy. But I changed my mind, ended up in nutrition. But when I first started, there are not a ton of genetics programs, and I wanted to stay within a certain area of home just because it was my first time out on my own and with needing care and not knowing, not knowing people in certain areas. I wanted to be close to some sort of family. And so within the state, when I lived in Ohio, it was either Wright State or Ohio State. Wright State was a little too close to home for my liking. I wanted to branch out a little further. It was right down the road. I easily could have lived at home, but I went to Ohio State instead. It was just a bigger campus. Honestly, I wanted to get lost in the crowd, and so that was part of my choice. And then for grad school, a huge factor was mainly just the program accreditation. I'm doing public health. It's a newer field, so there's not a ton of, well, it's not new, but the schooling is new, and there were like 3 choices in the state of Texas. So I applied to those 3 and ended up going to UT at Houston because I can live at home and save money while in grad school. So
Muted again.
I promise that won't happen every time. Sam, do you have any insight to share in that question?
Yeah. So my first choice was in another state, and I quickly realized that there was not the services that I got that I could get if I was living in my own home versus living on campus somewhere. You don't have the personal care assistant choices that you have where you live, basically. If I was to move, I would have to start up services in another state, which takes a long time, and also find my own workers, and which I would have to do at home anyway. But I hadn't quite started that process yet, so yeah, so I got kind of sad and I just kind of gave up and went to school at a community college that was nearby. I did really well in high school. Um, I had, A's and B's all through high school. So I was hoping to go to a college where that mattered. But then I went to a smaller school where you could basically get in with like a 2.5. And so I went to school there, and I didn't really know what I wanted to study. So I kind of just got my general stuff out of the way. And then I talked my mom into moving closer to a college. It was about like an hour and a half away from where we lived. So we got a house about a couple blocks from that school where I could just drive my chair to and from classes. And then, so I got my undergraduate there in counseling, rehab counseling. And when I met my husband, he lived in Tennessee. I didn't meet my husband, but I met the guy that I was going to marry, and he lived in Tennessee. And so I moved to Tennessee, and just so happens we're in the city where University of Tennessee, Knoxville is. And so I just finished up my master's program here. There wasn't a whole lot of choice for that. They just happened to have my degree program.
and I'd like to add, if I can.
Yes, absolutely.
So it just popped in my head. But for undergrad, I had to say one of my factors when I met with the disability office at Ohio State, because I was really leaning towards there anyway, and they had when Sam was talking about driving her wheelchair, it reminded me of, being Ohio, it's cold, and they had a paratransit system that took me to and from class, and that was actually a huge selling point, knowing the size of the campus and where my dorm was going to be in relation to class. That was it was a huge deciding factor. So
that was going to be the next question I was going to ask both of you is how large a factor the accessibility offered at the campus that you chose played a role in choosing that school as opposed to just the program that was available for you academically.
I guess I can start. We'll just take turns starting. But I guess so. Wright State, for those of you, I don't know how familiar some of you are with it, but at least in Ohio, being so close to it, it was very known for its accessibility and disability services. I was kind of being somewhat of a rebel at that point. And I wanted to prove that I could survive in the school that didn't necessarily have all the services. And honestly, since then, was speaking with several individuals with the same disability as mine that have gone to Wright State or are attending there now. I actually got a lot better accommodations, and there was a lot less fighting to get them at Ohio State. So I think accessibility to me at that point wasn't, I guess, physical accessibility as far as like the buildings and things. I didn't look at all that much, primarily just because my bigger worries were personal care services, not so much. You know, I figured that a state school of that size, accessibility would not be a massive issue, and it really was not. There were a couple things I encountered, but they took care of it right away, and it was not an issue. So I have to say, other than like the dorm where I was going to be living, that obviously needed to be physically accessible to me, but that wasn't a huge deciding factor.
At what point did you, or what did you consider, I guess, to be the biggest obstacle for you in terms of attending college, and how did you address that? What sort of resources did you use to help navigate those challenges? Sam, do you want to go
Okay.
first?
Yeah, I can. Biggest obstacles were just my lack of knowledge about what I could do and um, about the services in the area. Also, I didn't have a whole lot, like Rachel was saying, she kind of got a heads up from people in similar situations, which that would have been great. I didn't think about that because I was young and I just thought, I could do it, la la. And I'm kind of stubborn and I want to do things my own way, and turns out to be the hard way sometimes. So I, but that would have been good. I suggest that to people who are watching to connect with other people with similar disabilities and just kind of find out what they did. Let's see, what was the other part of the question? The biggest obstacle, yeah, that was it.
I'd say mine was probably just um, like accessing the personal care services that I needed to be able to move out on my own. Like my parents had basically been my primary caregivers. Um, so it was a huge step navigating that whole system. I mean, as it still is and always will be. But just really just that, just finding caregivers in the town, you know, where I didn't know tons of people, um, and just getting it paid for.
And service professionals, sorry, not excluding either of you, if either of you has a story from something that you've seen or an experience that you've had yourselves, please feel free to chime in with these questions. Although they are geared towards students with disabilities, they are by no means exclusionary of the professionals' experience and expertise in the matter.
I would like to add something about um, challenges that students have when they get here. The biggest one that I've noticed would be that they are not familiar with what accommodations are available or how to use them. Um, so that's something that it's a learning curve when you get to higher education, because there's a lot available. You are now responsible for managing your own accommodations. Nobody's going to do it for you. So that's definitely something that we end up working with first-year students with a lot.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I was going to comment on that as well, that, of course, get into a mindset of using IDEA to manage all of our accommodations throughout grade school, and then of course when you transition into college, all of that goes away, and so the only thing we can use, of course, is the OCR laws. And as a result, we have a lot of students that come in without the mindset of self-advocacy, and without a mindset of even disclosure. And of course, disclosure is voluntary, but not realizing that that's necessary to begin the accommodations process to connect them with the resources that they need to equalize their access to the academic program.
Okay. Um, so I guess going along that of disclosure and self-advocacy, at what point, Sam and Rachel, did you determine that you really needed to meet with your disability services office and disclose to them the accommodations that you need? Was it sort of a proactive step that you took, or did you kind of get to college and go, oh, hey, I better set this up so that I don't lag behind and have the access that I need?
I guess I remember contacting Ohio State's disability office March of my junior year, I believe, was the first time I talked to them. And honestly, it was not a very fruitful meeting. I really didn't get anything out of it. It was basically like, if you're not already a student here, like if you're not accepted, and which obviously I was not even in the process of applying yet, then kind of don't bother. So once I was finally accepted, I met with them again, I think about the same time of my senior year, sometime in the spring. No, actually it was before that. It was in the fall, but and then they directed me to housing and all of that, which was very helpful. And I have to say the biggest, I guess, difference for me from what I was used to was from a fairly small high school, and like everyone knew my disability. I mean, obviously it is visibly obvious. I know some people do not have that and struggle with that, but mine was, and people just kind of knew my accommodations. Teachers would kind of say, oh, like Rachel's, it's easy, she's just going to need this or that or whatever, and having to actually contact professors and say, hey, I've worked with the disability office, these are my accommodations, just wanted to give you a heads up. And at first, you're kind of that freshman, kind of like in awe of your professors, and oh, what if they say no? And I thankfully never had that issue. I know people that I met through the disability office with other like not so visible disabilities did struggle with professors. So sometimes people will come to me and say, how do you deal with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I thankfully have never had that issue. But so I would say just I didn't have a huge trouble taking charge of, like the disclosure and letting people know. But I can see where it would be a struggle for some people. And so I would definitely say if it is, start early talking to the disability services office.
Yeah, if I may jump in here, one of the things that that we struggle with is also getting it to students that are coming in. That when I was talking about self-advocacy earlier, a big part of that is that a lot of times the parents are heavily involved when they're first moving in, as freshmen to our university. And while that's great that they have that support, at the same time, they're adults now, and so I mean it's great that you have support. If there is a parent or a caregiver or somebody involved, that's great. But when I talk about self-advocacy, it is a self-advocacy process to where you own your own accommodation process. A big thing that we have here is documentation too, appropriate documentation, because especially with the non-obvious disabilities, such as learning disabilities and things like that may be invisible. Having appropriate documentation is all the difference between getting the accommodations you need and the accommodations committee or someone else saying that that documentation does not show how that functionally limits you. And so it's, while it may indicate that there's something going on there, it does not show functionally how it impacts you. So how do we know what accommodations would be appropriate in order to equalize your access to the program?
I know when I started school as an undergrad many years ago, I kind of jumped right on board with the disability services and thought that I was going to get everything I needed. No one really explained to me the whole process between high school and college and the things that are not going to be there when you turn 18. College life, and I sort of got thrown into all of it and didn't really have that sort of peer experience that you had talked about earlier, Sam and Rachel, in terms of talking to individuals that had sort of been there, done that. Thankfully, I had a really great support system at the disabilities office where I went to school at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and they really kind of guided me through the transition from high school to college, and were really great at explaining everything to me and how it worked. But I think that was probably the largest struggle for me, and the biggest hurdles to get through was figuring out where I fit now in the advocacy and the process to equal access. So I know, Rachel, you talked about the paratransit services that were nearby and personal attendance. But what sort of other resources did you all find helpful that were either on your campus or in the community near where your school is located that you used besides the Disability Services Office?
I'm going to start on this one. I didn't actually use the Disability Services Office. I remember going in, and there were a bunch of people without disabilities there, and they had a lot of forms for me to fill out. And so I was just a little paranoid, and I was like, well, I kind of asked them what type of services they offer, and most of it was things that I didn't need. A lot of it was like note-taking services. What else was there? Oh, getting extra time to take exams, getting quiet rooms to take exams, rescheduling exams for getting more time or something. I'm not really sure. There was also something else. Oh, putting books on a tape or books on a CD disc, things like that, which I didn't need any of that stuff. So I asked them if they ever did, had like people go to classrooms with people to make sure they could get into classrooms, access elevators, get their books out for them, things like that. And they said they didn't do that, so I left. I just basically left because I didn't know what else I asked about personal assistance, if there were people who helped you while you were on the campus to do things like use the restroom or get food or something like that. And we didn't have that type of thing. So I just left. But the most helpful thing on campus was just contacting other students with disabilities. And one semester we started a group for students with disabilities so that we could all get together, and we met up every week and just kind of talked about things, just everything getting involved on campus. And so I got involved in a lot of different things that way, just trying new things.
Did you use any community services at all um, beyond what your university offered? I know you said that a lot of what the disability services offered in terms of accommodations wasn't really a good fit for you for your specific needs, but was there anything in the community or any other department on campus, or did you kind of feel peer support was probably the most beneficial for you?
I did UC local paratransit. Um, they were pretty great. You just basically called them and let them know that you were ready and you wanted to go somewhere, and they would come pick you up. And that was pretty good. But like I said, we lived very close to the campus, and I could be there in like 3 minutes. And our campus was very small, which was nice. And I could get from, like if I was going to be late for class, it was only a couple minutes because I could leave my house literally like 5 minutes before class started and be there on time. So it was a small school. But other than that, yeah, it was just paratransit. I had personal care assistance from through an agency in town, but it was not. I mean, it wasn't related to school.
So I had kind of the completely opposite experience from you, but I went. A lot of people say that Ohio State is very much its own city, and it very much is. And so, honestly, their disability services offices had everything I literally needed. So even their paratransit, it was actually run by the campus bus services. So it was owned and operated by ODS, which was their disability office. So once I got my documentation through them as far as the testing accommodations, things like that, which were my main accommodations were test taking and then the paratransit services. But once I got my documentation in, they contacted the, it's kind of commonly known as the van, and there were actually 5 of them, but and they said, hey, when you get your schedule at orientation this summer, just call this number, schedule your rides. That's what I did every quarter or semester after. But like I said, everything was pretty much there, so there were not a ton of community services other than, like Samantha said, the personal care services. But again, those were just separate. But everything I basically needed was just on campus, or ODS took care of it. So.
Okay. Before we move on to the questions for our professionals, do either of you have anything extra that you want to add for any students with disabilities that may be watching? Any little bits of advice for them in their process, whether they're already at the college level and working towards getting their degree, or are in high school still kind of weighing their post-secondary options?
Yes, I mean, I would kind of say, just from my personal experience, other people may disagree, but don't let like if you go to a school and you think you really like it, but maybe you meet with disability services and you're not impressed or whatever, don't let that turn you away, because obviously Sam had a successful experience and she did not work with them at all, or I chose a school that supposedly had not as good of services, and I had a wonderful experience with them. And I haven't had grad school has been slightly more difficult just because it is a smaller campus. It's kind of a branch campus. It's pretty small, and I've had to kind of there was no one there that said that had done this before. I'm kind of their about second student in a wheelchair. So I know the other one. So, but it's very, it's a little different. It's kind of my first time of having to actually say, this is why I need this, and you know, I've had it before, please let me have it. I did this all through undergrad, blah blah blah. Like, but just don't let it turn you away. If you don't think they are experienced with your situation, or you don't think they're going to offer you what you need, you know, just fight for what you need regardless of where you are.
Okay, really quick before we start with the questions for the professionals, I just wanted to acknowledge that Colin Petty did join us about 10 minutes in. So a belated welcome, Colin, from the Disability Services at Southern Adventist University. So
Thank you, Jean Marie.
yes, it's great to have you here. I'm
I
glad.
apologize. I had a student in my office and ran a little bit over, but glad to be here.
So I guess the first question that I think is a really relevant one to delve into, and it was touched on a little bit earlier, are some of the larger differences between high school and college that students with disabilities should really be aware of, that they kind of don't realize until they get there.
Well, I can start on that for sure. Uh, one of the early things that we have to talk to our students about when they're coming in is, as I said before, number one, the change from it being the school's responsibility to root out any disabilities, or to provide accommodations, and that responsibility shifts to the individual. And so that's a big change for most, because they're used to the school administrating that process, and so it's a little bit of a change because the um, responsibility shifts to the individual. And so we try to certainly help them through that process, and let them know, of course, what their rights are, what their recurring responsibilities are, and all the various ways that we can help in connecting them with various community resources or resources that may exist here in the school as well. If you have further comments, we'll go from there.
Polly, anything you'd like to share on those differences?
No, Colin made it pretty thorough. I suppose that the one big difference that I might want to add actually is that because the onus is now on the student to make their decision to disclose, to seek the assistance that they need. A lot of students that when they get to college, they think, well, this is going to be different. I'm going to try to do this without accommodations. And that's all well and good, but I really, really recommend that you still go ahead and register with your Disability Services Office, so that if you do need extra help, it's available to you at any time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I blanked for a second. But there were a lot of services that, I started out thinking I would need, and ended up not using. And then there were services that I didn't think I would need that I did. So I agree, like, signing up is great, but it's also good to realize I found I'm a lot comfortable if I can take a test with a professor and he or she will give me extended time without needing to go to the disability office to take the exam. I prefer to take it with classmates. That's something I had to kind of figure out. So just play with it as you go.
One of the reasons that we do encourage students to come and talk to us is because it will help the accommodations process be consistent. Because if you do it outside of the process, just with a professor or something of that nature, doing something informal, I think the danger there is in not getting consistency in the way that the accommodation is administered. And while I definitely agree with you that you need to try different things and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you at the same time. I encourage students to come by, go ahead and register, get accommodations letters for each one of their professors, take it to their professors, and then discuss individually with them, what might be appropriate as far as the way that accommodation is administered. But that way you own the accommodation, and you can take it or leave it as far as the professors themselves and what works for you and what doesn't.
So I know we talked about this with the student panel in terms of when they ultimately decided to reach out to disability support services. And Holly, you mentioned that whether you use the accommodation or not, it's certainly helpful to be registered. But at what point do you recommend a student really take the initiative? And I guess, what do you see is a general trend among students in terms of reaching out to the Disability Services Office? Do they tend to kind of wait till the last minute and are rushing 3 weeks before finals to get accommodations that they suddenly realize they've been struggling without all this time, or are they very proactive? I know you all see a lot more students through your offices than us individual students see only what we've experienced and our own sort of process in that. But what do you observe as a general trend, and what do you kind of think is good about that, and maybe not so good about that students should really learn from now before making that mistake?
It really depends on the type of student. It sometimes depends on the type of disability. Certain invisible disabilities, such as probably more often ADD, ADHD, students will try and get by the best that they can, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you do find yourself struggling, there's also nothing wrong with getting a little extra help. Taking your exam in a distraction-reduced environment, having a little bit of extra time on your exam, or things that can benefit students, and that's usually those are usually the accommodations that students come in at the last second asking for, that they probably could have benefited from throughout the semester. So if you do find yourself struggling, please, by all means, come in and ask for accommodations, and we'll try and sit down. And one of the really cool things about disability services that I really enjoy is getting to talk with the students and finding out what their challenges are and how we can meet their needs. So it's a unique experience, and there's a lot that we can do to help.
If I can take just a moment to add to what you were saying there, Holly, I agree. That's one of the greatest parts of the job is meeting with students individually. And one thing I do find is that students a lot of times have developed their own, especially with academic accommodations, have developed their own coping mechanisms, if you will, to be able to mitigate the effects of a diagnosis that they have or they may have not received yet. And so they've been developing these mitigating strategies to help them through. But then as we get farther along into their academic careers, it becomes more and more challenging, and some of those coping mechanisms that were earlier developed fall apart, and they just simply don't work anymore. So that's why it's a good idea to do it as early on in your college career as possible.
Okay, I know that every college is certainly different, and they all have different processes and procedures. But if you could both, I guess, talk a little bit generally about what the process is for students that want to disclose their disability and look into receiving accommodations at the university level, what the process is in general that they'll have to go through and be aware of ahead of time.
Holly, why don't you go ahead, Holly?
Sure. Our process is really easy. Students just have to come into our office if they want to receive accommodations, and just say, hey, I need to register. And so we'll give them a application that they need to fill out. It's one page front and back. And it basically just asks for a little bit of personal information, and then also very, very generic details about what their diagnosis is. And then in addition to that, we also ask for documentation from a qualified professional, and we'll review that documentation to help assist us in figuring out the best plan for the student. Once those two pieces of information are turned into us, the student will make an appointment to meet with one of our professionals, and we will sit down with them in what we call an intake meeting, which is basically just a interview with the student to find out what their challenges are and what we can do to meet their needs based on what their diagnosis is and the impact of their diagnosis.
It sounds like we have very, very similar processes here. I would add to that well, first of all, I guess, what do you do with students that may not have a formal diagnosis yet, but may have a suspected disability or a learning difference that has not yet been identified? Do you have a process for that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. We will still have the student fill out the application, and we will sit down with them for the intake meeting and just try and kind of weed out what their suspicions are, what they are having difficulties with, and we will set up temporary accommodations for up to one semester and allow them that time to go ahead and get a diagnosis. So that way we can be sure that we're dealing with their impact in the best way possible.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like it'd be very useful. We have a counseling and testing center here too that we can actually write after talking with the student. We can write a referral for the student to go and get the first part of the testing that would identify a diagnosis done. We can actually do the first half of that in-house, and oftentimes it cuts the cost from thousands to hundreds. So it's another side benefit that we offer to our students here. Then the second half of the testing, they can actually write a referral up in our counseling and testing center to another local clinical psychologist here. They can do the rest of the testing and identify any kind of diagnosis that may that then the student can then take and decide what to do with it, whether or not they choose to request accommodations or not.
So, keeping in mind with accommodations, what are some of the more common accommodations that students will request having, and also what sort of supplemental programming, if your school has it, do you see as being really helpful for students?
Thanks, Colin. So I think our number one accommodation is exam accommodations, which is what I deal with. So students needing extended time on tests, needing distraction-reduced environments, or needing to take exams with assistive technology such as a screen reader or like an assisted reading device like Kurzweil, things like that. The second most common accommodation would probably be alt text for students who have learning disabilities or reading disabilities. So we can provide textbooks in a digital format where they can either have the books read out to them or already in an audio format, things like that. We do here at UTC have a large population of students with visual impairments. So we do provide Braille copies of, well, we don't provide Braille text because they can usually use digital copies of text, but we'll provide like Braille exams, things like that. Also tactile images. So that's another accommodation. And we also have a large population of students on the autism spectrum. So that would we have a program called Mosaic, and that would fall into the additional programs for students. So we have a whole program that provides a class where they learn executive functioning skills, where they learn how to acclimate to college, to the social environment, and it goes all the way up through helping them find an internship and teaching them how to transition into the workforce. And it also includes peer mentoring, life coaching, and mandatory study hours here in our office.
Yeah, we have several different aspects of other resources that we try to connect students with as well. Some of those are peer-assisted study sessions, and also tutoring resources, which are also free of charge here as part of your tuition. So there are a number of different resources that we can connect students with outside of just our traditional accommodations process. But yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up.
So those are all of the questions that we've gotten. Before we wrap things up, we're about we're nearing the 1 hour mark. But do you either of you, Holly or Colin, have any additional comments or information that students that are looking at college or are already in the midst of college and maybe struggling or maybe haven't made that decision to disclose yet? Do you have any kind of insider information for them before we wrap things up today?
Yeah, I liked Colin's point about additional resources outside of our office. Being in college can be a very, very stressful environment, mostly because there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot of work to do, and then of course there's always the social aspect, and students are always, trying to get the most out of college that they can. And so one of the things that we really love to do is teach our students about the resources that are on campus. That could be anything from the writing center to help them with their papers and essays. There's academic success, which provides tutors. We do have a academic coaching program here in our office where we try to help students manage their time, learn study skills, things like that. There's all sorts of resources, and just knowing what they are, whether you're registered with us or not, students can really, really benefit from everything that's out there on campus.
I did have one further comment that one of the things that we're seeking to do is we want to preserve confidentiality wherever it's appropriate to do so. I'm sure, Holly, everybody in your office is FERPA trained as well, and that's one of the things that we let students know is that they're, number one, of course, we're destigmatizing having any kind of disability whatsoever, but at the same time, we're keeping things confidential too. A lot of students come out of high school thinking that if they self-disclose a disability, that it's going to become somehow part of their permanent record, that goes down to the central office, and gets stored along with the rest of their academic record, and that's simply not the case here. We maintain all of that type of self-disclosure and any kind of documentation completely separate from the student's academic record, and it never leaves this office. Everything is kept under lock and key and supervised by FERPA trained personnel, so it doesn't get outside of this office. So, like I said, we want to destigmatize it, any type of aversion that the student might have to self-disclose, but at the same time we want to let them know that it is kept, and that information is treated with the utmost confidentiality.
And on a personal note, along with that, we are your biggest allies and your biggest advocates. We are the safest place for you to come and, talk about your challenges. And you can always count on disability services professionals to be able to help you and to be able to, to make you feel more at ease in the college environment in general. We are definitely, we're in the field, we're on our feet, and we're here to help. And that's all we're here to do, is to help.
Well, I would like to thank all four of you again for joining this panel today for Access U's first ever college Q&A event. I hope that any viewers watching got some useful information for themselves and to share with anyone else that they feel could benefit from disability services in higher education. If you're interested in learning more about Access U, please feel free to check out our Facebook page and like us at facebook.com/AccessU Inc. That's ACCESS, the letter U, Inc., all one word. You can also follow us on Twitter at AccessU_Inc., ACCESS, the letter U_Inc. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's live webcast, and please look out for the YouTube recording that will be posted with closed captioning as well. Thank you.